Guys, what's up? It's November and the weather sucks. It's fucking terrible. Our fall has come and gone. It's just terrible. Cold out, water's getting cold. I feel like this year just blasted by. It just sucked. This year has sucked. We had no spring. Spring was just come and gone, summer come and gone, fall come and gone, and now here we are again, where we have very little fishing time left before it's time to start twiddling our thumbs with our fingers up our ass, sitting around, doing nothing, wishing we were on the water. So here we are, and we're going to do a video today on gear ratios on your reels and what I use for which gear ratios and what they mean. So a lot of times you have a lot of options when you go to buy a new reel. You know, you want to spend your hard-earned money, you want to get the right reel for the right thing that you're trying to do, and there's so many options. You know, people have gear ratios from 5 all the way up into 10 now. So I'm going to kind of try and explain to you what that means to me, and how I go about choosing the proper reel. Okay. By the way, we're expecting snow tomorrow. I mean, what's today? November 12th, 11th, 12th, 13th, something like that. And we're expecting snow tomorrow. I mean, what's going on with this world? Anyway, so we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. The first one would be a 5 gear ratio reel. On the sides of the reels, usually they will give you some kind of sign of what kind of reel, what the gear ratio is. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says on the side 5 to 1. Shimano usually does, they'll end their numbers with another number. See how it says 201E5? So that means this is a 5 gear ratio reel. And what a 5 gear ratio reel is like if you have your transmission in your car and you're in second gear and you only have second gear. You can't, you know, it revs up real high, it's got a lot of torque, but you can't go very fast. That's exactly what this reel is good for. So what you want to do with a 5 gear ratio reel, the only thing that I use this reel for is deep cranking. If you've ever tried to crank with a 7 gear ratio or even a 6 sometimes, or a higher gear ratio, you'll notice that you're reeling and you are wore out, man. You're just like, oh my God, why is my wrist burning so bad? You know, it feels like the plug is just pulling and pulling and pulling. That's because it's too high of a gear ratio, and what this 5 will do is it's going to really take that force off of your arm and your wrist, your hands, and it's really going to let the reel do the work. So it's all torque. So when you cast that big, you know, 6XD, 8XD, 10XD out there and you have a 201E5, so 5 gear ratio, and you're reeling, I mean, you have to reel a little bit faster to get that plug to come as fast as you want it to, but the reel is doing all the work. You're not doing anything. You don't feel as much of that pressure as you would with a higher gear ratio. So the only thing that I use a 5 gear ratio reel is for deep cranking. Shallow cranking, even like a medium running crankbait, a 5 gear ratio is going to be your best bet. This is the only thing I use this for. It's a one use purpose reel, and that's all there is to it. So that's the 5 gear ratio. Now you get up to the 6 gear ratio, which is a step higher, but it's still, so now you're going from 2nd gear to 3rd gear. Okay, you're in 3rd gear. You can't go any higher, you can't go any lower. You're just in 3rd gear. You got still got a lot of torque, but you don't have as much torque as you would for cranking, but you have more torque than you would with a high speed gear ratio. So the 6 gear ratio would be good for slow rolling a spinner bait, even a chatter bait, swim jigs, you know, anything like that. It's going to be too slow for flipping. You can't pick up a lot of line real fast. It's going to be too slow for throwing a jig, because, you know, even if you're fishing that jig deep and you're crawling it on the bottom, when you hook up, you want to be able to pick up line fast. And this one's not going to be able to do it. So another good thing with a 6 would be shallow running crankbaits, medium running crankbaits, or slow rolling a spinnerbait. Those are probably the 3 that I'm going to use this reel for the most. Okay, so that's your 6 gear ratio. Now your 7 gear ratio is the best of all worlds. If I had to take one reel and I had money to buy one reel and one reel only, it would definitely be the 7. The reason for that is because it's a multi-purpose reel. I use a 7 probably more than any other reel, and it's good for just about anything. Like I said, if you're going to deep crank, you need that 5. You can't. I mean, you can use a 7 with it, but you're going to burn out so fast that you're going to hate it. You're never going to want to pick it up again because your wrist is going to burn for a couple days. So the 7 is a good all-purpose reel. You can use this for almost anything. 7s I use for spinner baits. I use it for top water sometimes if I want it to come a little bit slower. I use it for flipping 100% of the time. Jigs, I use a 7 gear ratio. So pretty much your 7 is going to be your best all around. I'm going to use this majority of the time. So if you have money to buy one reel and one reel only, I would buy a 7 gear ratio. It's as simple as that. And I think most people would agree. Okay, so that's a 7. Now you get up to the big boy. This is the 8. I think this is 8 to 5 to 1. Yeah, 8 to 5 to 1. This is the Metanium, and I use this one strictly for anything I need fast paced. Okay, I'm gonna sometimes I'll flip with an 8. Most of the time it's with a 7, but sometimes I'll use the 8 if I need to pick up that line super fast. One turn of this handle picks up like 30 something inches of line, so it's quick. One turn and you got that line coming. The problem with a 8 to 5 to 1 or or a 9 to 1 or a 10 to 1 up in those higher gear ratios is that when you're reeling, so say you're punching, you know, you got a big weight, you're in Florida and you're punching heavy mats, okay? When that weight goes through that mat and that fish eats it and you set the hook, you can barely turn this handle with all that grass and whatever else is on there with the fish to get him up out of that mat. You can barely turn it. The reason is because, now remember I said with the lower gear ratios, you're in 2nd or 3rd gear. Now pretend you're in 5th gear or 6th gear in a car and you can't go any faster, but you can't go any slower because it starts to bog down. So you have no torque. There's no torque in this reel. It's all speed, okay? No torque. You're going to do most of the winding with your arms and your wrist and your hand. So benefits of this reel are only picking up line fast. So 99 to 100% of the time, I'm using this reel for frogs. Topwater, frogs, buzzbait, you know, and some of the time flipping, but only if I'm in open water. If I'm, you know, punching mats or something, I do not want to be using this reel. You would want to go down to a 6 or a 7 to get more torque. So basically, the higher the gear ratio, the less torque you have. The lower the gear ratio, the more torque you have. So you got to kind of, you know, balance the two and figure out what's the best one for you. This reel it's one of my favorite reels, but it's limited to what it can do. You know, like I said, I'm gonna use this mainly for frogs. I have 50-pound braid on here. It's mainly all I use it for. So that's how I would go about choosing the right reel for your money. But some people are gonna have different opinions on it. But I mean, that's how I feel about it. It's pretty. I've spent enough time on the water to know with each one of these reels to know what the benefits and what the cons are to all of them. So I mean, you can use an 8 gear ratio if you just, if you want your, bait, whatever bait you're using, to come back to the boat super fast. Like a time that it would be beneficial the most is if you're fishing super clear water or current and you need that bait to come back fast. But remember, you're not going to have any torque. So that's how I go about it. So don't waste your money on a reel that you're not going to use. Spend it wisely. And if you guys got any questions about it that I can answer, I'll give it my best. And that's what I got. So you guys enjoy this bullshit weather. Enjoy this bullshit winter. And I'll try to put up some more often throughout the winter, kind of to keep everybody occupied, searching videos and wishing that we were out. We only have a couple weeks left before that water's hard, so keep getting at it, and I'll talk to you.